Righty. So, just flicking through Facebook, just I wouldn't say killing time, but whatever. Shitty day. I'm just sitting inside, not doing much at the moment. I'm just flicking through Facebook, and I follow quite a few poly V8 pages and Mopar pages and whatever. And somebody was asking about a timing chain retainer kit that you can get for a small block. That fits the LAs and the Magnums and Polys, and it probably even fit. I would guess maybe it might fit on a first gen Hemi as well. Some of them. Not 100% sure on that, but it's a timing chain guide for for a small block. They don't really have factory, right? But people always say, is it worth buying? Whatever, has anybody used it? Whatever, and it's like, well, a good quality timing chain set for a small block be fine. Like the retainer plate that holds the cam in, well, you're going to use that anyway. So like it's basically the same thing, but it's got two plastic runners down the outside of it to stop chain whip and whatever. If you're building a small block V8, right, it's just going to see street use for the most part. How often is that thing going to be going past? I don't know. It depends on which part of the world you're in and how fast you're running the thing. But I don't know, anywhere from say 60 miles an hour up, like 60. Our speed limit here is 60 miles an hour. In Australia, it's 110, about 70 miles an hour. I know in the US you can drive them quite a bit faster than that, but obviously depending on your gearing, whether you're running a like a 3-speed or an overdrive trans or whatever, or what dip ratio you're running, like for the most part, you don't want to be really spinning it probably any more than $3,000 on the highway. If you want to have, if you're just building a cruiser, maybe if you're doing 80 miles an hour or something like that, you might be pulling, you might be pulling $3,000 somewhere around about the year. If you're building I'm not talking like a stock build either. Something with a bit of a cam, maybe with something with a wee bit of head work. Maybe an intake and a decent, I don't know, like a 650 or 750 carb. Maybe one of those EFI type carburetors, like a Sniper or fucking whatever. But even if you're building a fairly stock type engine, it's just warmed up a little bit. Like for the fucking most part, the thing's never gonna see, apart from the odd little squirt on the street or something like that. Fucking having a bit of a play with your mate somewhere out in a fucking open road somewhere, and you might zing it up to $5.5, $6,000 maybe. You know what I mean? On the fucking dark side of things, you're not gonna need one of those guides if you put a good timing chain set in, not some Chinese shit or whatever, like a good roller timing chain set. Fucking thing will last shit forever, really. Like the factory ones, shit. 100,000 miles, and they might have been, they started might have getting a bit noisy, but shit, at that stage, you're probably looking at a bit of a refresh anyway, so you're going to put another fucker in it. If you're out doing that many miles in your old car, well, maybe 100,000 Ks or 100,000 miles, 160,000 Ks. If you do 160,000 Ks in your old fucking hot rod cruising around, or 60s or 70s muscle car, with a small block, whether it's a 318 poly or 318 or 273 or 340 or 360 or whatever, or even a stroker, unless you're fucking taking it to the drag strip on the weekend, not a bad idea then, because that would keep your timing a bit more stable. But if you're zinging it down the quarter at fucking, I don't know, 6.5, 7,000 RPMs every fucking weekend, if you're building a pretty stout engine, and you got it nicely balanced and shit, fuck those Mopar small blocks will pull fucking 7,000 RPMs all day long. Down a quarter, fucking first, second, third, fucking 120 miles an hour down through a quarter, doing, I don't know, 10, we'll say anywhere from sort of 12 to 10-second passes without too much issues. You know what I mean? In an average street car, maybe a Dart or something like that, with a decent small block, maybe a stroker kit, we'll do it. It should do a 10-second, should get pretty close to a 10-second pass without too many issues. You know what I mean? With a decent horsepower, maybe we spray a nitrous or something like that. Yeah, then put one of those retainers in it if it's going to see some fucking RPMs all the time. But is it necessary on a street car? Nah. If you're done doing that many miles that fast, well, throw the fucking roller timing chain, set it away, and put another one on it. You know what I mean? But if you're done 100,000 miles on the fucking thing, in a few years' time, most of us probably won't. You know what I mean? Maybe, but probably not. Pull the motor out and give it a birthday. You know what I mean? Fucking new set of rings, bearings, whatever. New timing chain, maybe a fresh cam, some lifters, whatever. And fucking go again. By the time you've done that many Ks, you're probably doing suspension bushes and maybe a set of shocks and fucking knows what else anyway. Probably give the trans a refresh. It's what's a timing chain set? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea, but it's something else. It's not to say that they give issues, but it's something else that wasn't their stock, wasn't really needed stock. I know plenty of guys that run some good horsepower small blocks, strokers that are doing, into the tens and never run anything like that. Would it, if it was around back in the day, maybe. You know what I mean? But never really needed it. You know what I mean? Like I said, like a good roller, a good decent quality one, set up properly. If you're going drag racing all the time, well, you're probably going to be rebuilding the engine before then anyway. You know what I mean? And a street car that's doing, I don't know, say 3,500 revs at fucking 80 or 90 miles an hour. Like you're not pushing the fucking thing that hard all the time. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be cruising around the street. You know what I mean? Like here, I would be wanting to try and run the things that, probably, a bit over 2,000 on our highways, you know what I mean? You wouldn't want to be, if you want to try and keep it reasonably economical with a half by decent gear set, in the back or whatever, 2,500 would be all I would want to be running on our streets, to try and keep I wouldn't say the economy, but try and keep it reasonable, with a decent tune-up, whatever. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, does it really need one of those guides? It's probably not a bad idea, but does it need it? Nah. Like I said, like if you're going to be drag racing all the fucking time, maybe, you know what I mean, to stop a wee bit of timing chain whip, as it got a little bit stretched. But, like most guys that are drag racing, are playing with their engines a bit. They're going to probably pull a cam out and change something over, and if the chain's getting looking a bit slack, we're going to put a fresh one in anyway, you know what I mean? Fresh timing set in there. Yeah, it's not something I would turn around and buy just because, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's nothing to stop you putting it on there Is it a bad thing? Probably not. But meh, like, they didn't need them for new. I know lots of guys that freaking played with some small block Mopars enough that I wouldn't worry about putting one on. You know what I mean? If you're going to be doing that many miles and that higher RPMs, well, maybe, you know what I mean? But shit, if you're trying to push a couple of 100,000 miles out of your motor in quick succession, well, it's become a daily, not a cruiser or a hot rod, you know what I mean?